Kelly Vaughn, and this is Inside Indy. If you're suffering back pain, you're not alone. In fact, it's more common than you might think. And here to help us, because I have some, the doctor's in the house. He is Dr. Kevin McAdaig, right?
Very good.
You are the founder and vice president of the Indiana Spine Group here in Central Indiana, and you're also a minimally invasive spine specialist.
That's correct.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here.
Man, I mean, I know that I have experienced back pain off and on. And the first thing I attribute it to is I'm getting older, and I am getting older. How common is back pain for people?
Well, it's one of the most common things. We all know the adage of the thigh bone's connected to our knee bone. Well, the spine is connected to everything. It's very sophisticated. And when we think of the back or the neck, we're saying one word, but within that word, we have 33 vertebrae, we have 24 discs, we have a plethora of nerves, the spinal cord, all these hundreds of attachments of muscles that and tendons that can get in trouble as well, 60 or so joints in the spine. And any of these things can hurt. And about 85% of us at some point have an episode of pretty substantial back pain at some point of our life.
So when you mention all those things and how they're all connected, and then we do have something, it's actually, that's pretty small when you look at the big picture of everything that's involved there, that we may have one pain, we've got millions of other things that are connected to our spine that are okay. So,
yeah, it's very true. When you think about it, the spine, to me, is just an engineering marvel. It really is. You have all these things that the spine has to do, of which you have muscles that allow us to move sometimes under extreme conditions. I think of my daughter all the time. She's a 15-year-old dancer, and the way she can move like a snake, it's like, how the heck does that spine stay together? And yet we ask it to do so many things, sometimes very strenuously, and yet it has to house the most fragile components of our body, which are the spinal cord and nerves, and somehow function through all that.
Right. You think about your athletes, like the LeBron James, all the major athletes, and they're running up and down the court. It's like, it's just amazing, the wear and tear our bodies and our spines take. So, the people who are experiencing the back pain, and I know it's kind of hard to diagnose their conditions because I would think they're vast. So what are some back pain or conditions of back pain?
Well, there's an awful lot, but you touch on
most common, yeah.
You touch on a subject that has always been very difficult in most cases. The usual name was called non-specific low back pain, which means we don't really know what's going on, you just have back pain. The majority of back pain is okay. If you can live with your back pain, then stay away from me, okay? If you can do the simple things, the anti-inflammatory medications, or simpler analgesics than that, simple exercises, going to see your chiropractor or your physical trainer, those are things that we always want people to take advantage of before they have to see a specialist like us. Typically, and I tell this to patients all the time, your back will tell you when there's an issue. It will become such a severe ache that it prevents you from doing just normal daily activities. You might experience numbness or weakness into the legs. The most common reason why a person does have back pain is perhaps a sprain, muscle or ligament pull, but those sort of things typically don't last long, nor do they make you go to the physician. If they go to the physician, then that's usually the primary care, so they don't get to our level. However, when the back pain is very severe, it'll tell you, and it will not just sometimes be very severe, but it'll be prolonged. And it'll take you out of your occupation or wanting to do the things that you really need to do, not the things that you want to do. And that's when you end up seeing someone like us.
My brother, that happened to him where he would just end up lying around all the time, and he ended up having to have surgery, and I don't know the details of it, but he certainly is more mobile than he was before, but still it's I can just tell he's a little slower than he used to be, but it was pretty devastating, and I'm not sure what brought that on. What typically causes one to be debilitated by back pain? Is it the matter of the spine or the discs, or what's going on?
Yeah, well, as I was saying in the beginning, there's an awful lot of complex components to the spine, and by far the most common reason why a person has back pain that puts them down on the ground as if a knife is stuck in their back is a disc. Whether it's torn, which is like a knife stab type of ache, a lot of back spasms. If the disc outright herniates, so the gel leaks out and pushes up against the nerve, then they have sciatica. That can be exquisitely painful as well. Very, very painful.
Okay, so I'm gonna have you diagnose me right now. Okay, so it feels like my tailbone, like it burns at the very bottom, and like when I walk, it hurts, or especially when I get up in the morning, and sometimes we can see what we feel in our own minds, that it feels like at the very tailbone. It doesn't feel like it's straight anymore, like it's crooked, and it hurts. It just aches, like a burning sensation, actually.
So then I'll ask you some questions.
Okay.
Is it usually worse in the mornings?
Yes.
Is it worse when you sit or stand?
Actually, either one.
Either
Sometimes
one, so
even
long
sitting, it'll be kind of uncomfortable. But
So if
probably
you're
standing.
sitting for a prolonged period of time, but it starts bothering you, and you feel as if you want to get up and about, is that correct?
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes.
I think I notice it more when I'm up, but I've noticed it when I sit down, because sometimes I can't sit right.
Okay.
Yeah, it feels
well,
uncomfortable.
I'll take a stab at it.
Okay.
It's
And I'm
not-
sure other people have suffered this. This is why I'm asking.
Yeah,
it, so.
well, you're talking very, very commonly. It's back pain is very common. I'll take a guess at it. I very well may be wrong. I didn't have the opportunity to examine you or
Okay.
look at films.
Okay.
But having said that, what's interesting about disc pain, I think that you most likely have a degenerative disc.
Oh,
It starts when we're in our late teens, so don't think that you're falling apart.
Okay.
As young as you are, I can't imagine that. So anyway, what's interesting about discs is that they'll cause this persistent ache in the back. You typically can't put your finger on it. It's not tender, and it prefers to move around, unlike arthritis. Arthritis, almost by definition, you hate to move that particular joint. There's a lot of joints in our spine. You don't want to move them. Whereas if it's a disc will start telling you that it hurts when you're sitting or standing for prolonged periods of time.
Okay. Let's talk about treating that or any other back pain conditions. What are therapies available now?
Yeah, fortunately, the majority of back pain issues, non-specific back pain, is very amenable, and this is what we emphasize, is like a structured exercise program. And my emphasis is on core strengthening, going to your gym and just asking an exercise trainer. My doctor says I need to work on my core, and every exercise trainer in the world knows what to do in that regard. And so we want them to be independent in doing that sort of exercise. So it's core strengthening, flexibility, and aerobic exercise. What's fascinating, again, about the disc is a disc doesn't have a blood supply. And so how do they live? And they live by pressure changes of how you move your spine. And so the more flexible, the more you move your back, the more it's going to stay in good health. So that's the most common reason why a person has back pain, the typical thing that we would recommend. Going beyond that, as in someone has a back issue to the point where they need an intervention, it depends on what that is, but we treat everything. So the herniated disc, the fractures, pediatric problems like scoliosis or spondylolysis, which is a young person's type of fracture in their back, degenerative problems, tumors in the spine, from all the way from the neck all the way down to the low back.
And you hate it when you hear the story about somebody being paralyzed. But I did want to bring this up. What advice do you give to all of us in terms of protecting our spines? Because that's kind of like the worst case scenario. You think of something happening where a person is paralyzed. And I know when I get in a car sometimes I'm not worried about so much about dying as I am about paralysis. So any advice from the Indiana Spine Group in terms of how do we protect our spines?
Well, it comes down to my point that I emphasized in the beginning. It truly is about conditioning, about to keep the core. And when you look at a spine, we all kind of have this general idea of what it looks like, and it has all these things that come off the side. Well, those are all attachment points to strong muscles and ligaments. And so I tell anyone that's around 50 or older that they're entering their second half of their life, and the first half is a gimme, the second half is not. And so you have to work at it to avoid injury. So keeping things strong and flexible are by far the most important thing.
Okay. Wow. And that's interesting because years ago, I was told to go to therapy. And then when I got there, it was basically a series of exercise. And so are you finding a lot with patients that they're just not doing that in terms of the strength training and keeping flexible?
Yeah, and I think what I would want to emphasize there is that the physical therapists, chiropractors, we have them working at Indiana Spine Group as well, and they're just so excellent at what they do. We're very dependent on them in the sense of keeping the patient going and doing the right things and getting them educated and avoiding the invasive things if they can. And so a lot of that information and education comes from them as well.
Okay, okay. How can people get in touch with you at the Indiana Spine Group?
Well, IndianaSpineGroup.com is, you don't need a referral to come see us.
Oh, really? You don't? Okay.
We've become such a referral center that I would say that maybe about a quarter to a third of our patients are now coming from out of state. So
really?
they just, coming from all over the country now.
Okay. Okay. Well, we appreciate you coming in, and I think my back feels better already.
Okay.
And I'm going to do, of course, I exercise, but some of the things you were saying was, strengthening the core, maybe with the lunges, and what is it? What is it they do? The planks. The planks.
The planks. Yes.
Yeah. That's everybody tells me to do that, so I'm going to do them.
Yeah.
Just because of you. I appreciate you coming in and sharing the information, educating us and enlightening us, because there are a lot of people out there who are in pain, and so hopefully they'll seek out help and get in touch with you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. And we'll be back with more here on Inside Indy after this. We're back here on Inside Indy, and with so much crime in our community, and you just feel this need to protect yourself. And I know you've probably been thinking about it. I've been thinking about it, how to do that. Been thinking about packing some heat. But do we know how to do that, and how to use a handgun properly? And we have someone in the studio with us, an expert. She is an expert, I'm telling you. She is Paula Beeson. Hi, Paula.
Hi, thanks, Kelly, for having me.
You are the owner and instructor at Safe Shots.
Yes.
Which is located where?
I'm in Kokomo, Indiana, but also willing to travel to other parts of our area in order to train people on firearms safety and legal use of firearms here in our great state of Indiana.
Okay, so you train people. You also do a lot of public speaking as well.
Yes, I do.
So if somebody is watching and would like to invite you out, they can get in touch with you. So.
Certainly.
Well, we appreciate you coming on Inside Indy today to teach us. She's going to teach us. This is a class for you about protecting ourselves. And of course, this is a hot issue in terms of what's going on in the news and the rights to bear arms and all that. And we think about the mass shootings that happen in Vegas and in Texas and that kind of thing. So, but let's start with to own a gun and not to own a gun. You say what?
I say own a gun if you can get properly trained to do so.
Good point.
People purchase firearms, they put them in a drawer at their home, they feel like that's insurance. It's not. It's worse than not owning one at all, because the safe and proper use of that firearm, storage thereof, how to take care of it, to know what ammunition to use, and most especially, once you enter the public venue, where can you and where can you not legally carry that firearm, and what is deadly force? When can you use deadly force? To pull a gun out and wave it around is brandishing. That's against the law. In my classes, we go through a lot of this information so that people do not have the wrong information or carry about a myth that they have heard and get themselves into trouble.
Since it is, and again, it's a very controversial issue, and especially we're talking about weapons like AK. What is it, 47s?
AK-47s or AR-15s.
Okay, and that's where the controversy is. But you would think, since this is such a precious right to bear arms, that we're not taught this in school. Wouldn't it be kind of cool to know this, like when you were a kid? Because you're saying a lot of key things, and I think this is when you talk about, when they say the liberals or the conservatives, is some of the liberals' concern is that, yeah, people, we got the right to bear arms, but are we educated? Do we know what we're really doing with them? You've got people out there that, and I wouldn't say have no business having it, but they're not educated on it.
Precisely. I feel that we all have that right, but with every right we have, whether it's to drive a car or it's to feed ourselves or whatever it is, we have the responsibility to understand what we're doing. Okay. And with the right to bear arms, which was given by our Second Amendment to the Constitution, that's a wonderful right to be able to protect oneself, and it's been there since man has existed. However, to ensure that right, we need to bear the responsibility that goes with it. Schools, we need to get this information out to the schools. And it's not that I want every child or every family to have a firearm, but in our country there are millions of them. Consequently, your child, your grandchild, your niece, your nephew are going to be exposed to a firearm at some point in time, and you're not going to be there. So shouldn't they know as much about keeping safe around firearms as they do about, let's say, the tornado drills they have at school, the fire drills, the where does the family meet if there's a fire in the home? All of these other safety issues that children are exposed to, should they not also be exposed to the safety issues that go with firearms?
Okay, let's talk about this. The 3 rules for safe gun handling, and they are what?
And they are, first, always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. So when you have a gun, like these 2 individuals, he's got it pointed out and away from the 2 of them, not toward one another, not sideways toward an individual. In the gun range, I even see people there who are not displaying proper handgun etiquette, and they're waving that gun around. No, point it at the floor, point it at the ceiling. Be sure that you're not pointing that at another individual. You don't point it at anything you're not willing to shoot.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're in, I remember learning in home ec how to hand somebody scissors, and my teacher taught me you hand them, you know, with the pointed end of the scissors, you hand it with the handle.
With the handle, and it's the same thing with the firearm. Second, always keep your finger off of the trigger until ready to shoot. And we can see this blue finger here outside of the trigger guard. So the index finger is actually alongside that firearm, not in the trigger until you are on target. Therefore, if your finger isn't in there, gun's not going to go off.
Right.
Very simple.
Good point.
And third, always keep the gun unloaded until ready to use. And they're showing you with the various firearms here, you have the handguns, the rifle, and the shotgun, how to show that that gun is unloaded, that the chamber does not have a cartridge in it. If that gun is being used for concealed carry, in a purse, waistband, ankle holster, what have you, it's loaded, okay? Bedroom drawer even. If it's somewhere else, should it still be loaded? So that's kind of an iffy area, again, with whether to have a gun, whether not to have a gun. Where is it loaded? Where is it unloaded? My rule at home personally is if it's loose in my house, it's loaded. Assume it is.
Okay.
If it is in my safe, I unload them before I put them in my safe. That way, if my daughters have to come to my home to take care of my possessions, we're not worried about what's in the gun safe. So everyone should establish as well with their family, what are the rules for this? What does it mean ready to use in my home? Where might it be? And how do I maintain these 3 so that every member of the family is safe?
Wow, okay. I was robbed.
Okay.
4 or 5 years ago.
Wow.
In a driveway, I was sitting there and somebody came up with a gun.
Wow.
And so, of course, when something like that happens, and I survived, you think, okay, I got to start packing heat. So to pack heat or not to pack heat, and I guess, because I've been told years ago by even some police officers, well, if you carry it, you have to be prepared to use it or somebody getting it from you. And I don't know that I'm buying that now. I almost kind of like, well, you're a girl, you don't need to have a gun. But what do you say?
I say carry it, but know what you're doing with it. And that means you go out and you practice frequently. You don't buy it, take one class off me, throw it in the drawer and say, okay, I'm safe. But you need to practice routinely. I tell my students at least every other week. Preferably more than that, but not everybody has that much time. It's just like working out at the gym. You can't work out once at the gym and say, okay, I'm great, I'm healthy, I'm good.
I'd like to, but yeah, you're right.
But yeah, we don't have that kind of time. So carry something. Before you get to the gun, however, what are some other things that you can do to be safe? Situational awareness, like sitting in your driveway, and we've all done it, sit in the driveway, oh wait, I gotta call mom. Dial in the cell phone, I'm not aware of anything else going on around me. That's not a good place to be. In our world, we needn't be paranoid, but we do need to be aware. Be aware of our situation. Don't be like the girl in the video that fell in the fountain while she was, playing on her cell phone. Same thing, be situationally aware. File a plan with your friends and relatives. Let them know where you're going to be that day. My real estate agent students often will say, I'm showing a home by myself. I need to tell someone where I'm going to be, how many hours I'm going to be there, what to expect. If they don't hear from me by noon, come check on me. Okay. Some things like that. Be aware of your situation. Other things that I tell people, as a matter of fact, at home, in your home, by yourself, at night. What are some other things you can do before you get out a gun? Because once you get that gun out, you've pretty much committed to something pretty severe.
It's on, okay?
It's on, okay? You don't put it back. And once the bullet goes, it's gone. So here are some other things that I have on our table in front of us, especially for some of my older students and my mom I'm thinking of, who is 85, has severe arthritis. What can she do? She is not capable of firing a handgun. Okay, I have something here that you're saying, why is wasp spray in the studio today? It will spray 20 feet. In a face, mucous membranes and so forth, this burns every bit as much as your mace or your pepper spray or your pepper gel, which are these two. This is gel, this is spray. Spray will spray back on your face on a windy day. Think about that when you're outside the car in your driveway. The gel will not. The gel's going to adhere to that individual or assailant. So anyway, at night, if you need to, you just press on that button, you're right there. As where with these, you have to turn it and press down. Flashlight. See what's going on. This one has a rough edge. This can actually be used as a weapon on the front edge of it. This one looks even more damaging, very heavy, also a very bright flashlight. Okay. Keep that under the bed. What's this? Nice. The extra key fob. We all get 2 key fobs unless you've got one of those things that don't have a key to them anymore. But a key fob, it has right here an alarm button. Okay. That's by your bed. Switch on your car alarm. Somebody in the neighborhood will hear something. They may not rescue you, but they may call the police and say, hey, there's a strange car in their driveway over there, and there's a busted window. Okay. So extra key fob, we've all got a spare someplace. Cell phone. This is an old one, but cell phone next to your bed. Charge your cell phone by your bed. Those 4 items right by your bed will buy you some time. We'll get you to where you need to go. We'll be able to dial 911. We'll be able to get the individual off of us. We'll be able to slam the door in order to perhaps prevent having to go to that next step of get the firearm out and say, hey, I've got a weapon, I will defend myself. Okay. We're out of time, but how do people get in touch with you? How do people sign up for lessons? Okay. To get in touch with me, contact me at safeshots.com. And also my telephone number is area 765-480-7469. Okay, and then I'll have you come back another time because we got part 2 and 3 for this. So. Okay. All right, Paula Beeson, owner and instructor for Safe Shots. Thanks for joining us on Inside Indy. And thank you for joining us. I'm Kelly Vaughn. We'll see you next time. Be safe. Bye-bye.